I'll tell you what, guys, I am still processing that I actually went to the theater and saw this movie here on planet Earth in the year 2020. What the hell is going on? Hey there guys, how are you? And welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing the New Mutants. Yes, you heard me right, that New Mutants. This is a new Marvel spin-off film directed by Josh Boone, who also directed the film adaptation of The Fault in Our Stars. It stars a bunch of talented folk like Anya Taylor-Joy, Maisie Williams, etc. This spin-off follows 4 young mutants being held in an isolated hospital for psychiatric monitoring. Dr. Reyes, played by Alice Braga, believing the teenagers are a danger both to themselves and to society as a whole, keeps a close eye on them and tries to teach them how to rein in their mutant abilities. But once newcomer Danny, played by Blue Hunt, joins the other patients in the facility, very strange occurrences begin to take place. The hospital's patients start to get plagued by hallucinations and flashbacks, and their new mutants' abilities, along with their friendships, will be tested as they battle to try to make it out of the hospital alive. Now, before we get further into this review, thank you all so much for stopping by and clicking on the video. I hope you guys enjoy your stay. If any of you guys are new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. That way you don't miss any of my future content coming out. And also please consider leaving a thumbs up on this video by the end if you enjoy it. But I actually want to start this review by telling you all a little bit of a personal story. As some of you may be aware, I used to actually work at a movie theater in my earlier days in the workforce. And in 2018, right around the latter half of when I was working there, I remember being stationed a lot near the popcorn machine. And in that specific facility where I was working, directly across from that machine were 5 slots for movie posters for upcoming releases in order to promote them. And I remember one day, this New Mutants poster was put up on that wall. And I remember looking at that poster and I was like, wow, a scary X-Men film. This could be really interesting. And then it got delayed. And then delayed again. And delayed another time after that. And long story short, that poster was on the wall for, God, I don't even remember how long. But it was up there for a while. But yeah, at this point, I'm sure you've all heard all the jokes about how much this movie kept getting delayed and whether or not we were actually going to see this movie in theaters. And of all years to happen, in 2020, here it is getting a theatrical release finally. And I sat there and watched it. And it's fine. That was my whole thought process driving home from the theater last night. It was okay. Kinda meh. So a couple of praises I can give the movie. Well, let's see. For one, I really like the fact that this movie is taking place pretty much all in one location, at this hospital. You really feel like you're trapped there, and it gives you a really uneasy feeling when you watch the film. Now sure, the entire story isn't actually in the hospital itself. It does make some cool jumps in space and time without getting too deep into spoilers. But yeah, I obviously like comic book movies, and I like those more contained thrillers, so this seems right up my alleyway. And I also really gotta commend the entire cast and the director Josh Boone for their work on this movie. They threw their freaking all into this material. Everyone involved here is extremely talented and they showed true glimpses of that greatness here. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Josh Boone also directed the film adaptation of The Fault in Our Stars, and I remember really enjoying that flick in theaters. And the New Mutants seems like quite the departure from The Fault in Our Stars. I really admire the range that Josh Boone is willing to try out as a director, and in the New Mutants he shows true flashes of potential as a director. As far as the cast goes, also really well done. I gotta especially commend Anya Taylor-Joy for her villainous turn. She was super cool. She performed really well, as did all the young actors in front of me on screen. Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, the list goes on and on. But as good as these performances are, my main issues with the New Mutants mainly revolve around that infamous post-production. Pretty much what everyone is saying about the movie is pretty much true. This film was apparently supposed to get a lot of reshoots in between when it was getting delayed, and apparently those reshoots never got done. Now take the pandemic out of this situation real quick. With how much the New Mutants was getting delayed, even disregarding COVID-19, there was really no other excuse for these reshoots to not be completed. So again, I don't know fully what the deal was here, but this movie's storyline is very messy, and I feel like it really could have benefited from those reshoots. This movie feels like it's trying to be a million different things at once. I was sitting there watching the movie and I was kind of enjoying the storyline going on, and I was like, okay, this is kind of like the Breakfast Club of the X-Men universe. And then the next scene over, I'm looking at it and I'm like, so now it's like the Mean Girls of the X-Men universe. And then the next scene, oh, this is like the Venom of the X-Men universe now. And then the next scene, this is almost like the It Follows of the X-Men universe. I guess this is the plot now. You see where I'm going here? The plot feels like it's trying to be a million different genres at once, crammed into a 94-minute runtime. To be honest, it's a damn shame that I have to say that, because there were a lot of elements I really enjoyed about this movie. Like the scary element, I love that stuff. But there was so little of that horror element in this movie because they had to make room for all these other storylines that it just left a lot more to be desired. I also thought the relationships between these characters and the dynamic they shared was really awesome. Specifically, without getting too deep into spoilers, I really like what they do with the characters of Rain and Danny specifically together. That stuff is really, really great. And I also thought that was a really super exciting climax. I mean, it felt like they just threw everything else out the window and it just turned into this big sci-fi extravaganza. And I was really enjoying that climax. It was really exciting up until the ending, which I'll get to in a minute. But my point is, there were a lot of elements that I enjoyed about the New Mutants, but there was just so little of all of these little things that just really did not make me enjoy it. I feel like the filmmakers should have just picked one tone and one genre. For example, just make this a horror movie if you want to put the horror elements into it. If you want to make it the Breakfast Club or the Mean Girls, fine, go that direction. But they just tried to throw too much at the wall with so little runtime, and it just comes off really, really sloppy. So I briefly touched on it, the ending of this movie, without spoiling anything. I f***ing hated it. Again, this is a spoiler-free review, but this felt almost as anticlimactic as Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Except, you know, unlike Fallen Kingdom, it wasn't blatantly telling the audience like, hey, wink wink, we're putting this ending in because we're making Dominion in 3 years. Please buy all the tickets to see it. Yeah, it's not that cringe, thankfully. But it was definitely cringe enough to the point where I could audibly hear the people in the cars on either side of me laughing hysterically at how stupid this ending was. And I agree with them. They should have been laughing. I rolled my eyes at it for sure. And another thing, a buddy of mine who runs another movie YouTube channel made a really, really excellent point in his New Mutants review. It doesn't really feel like it builds up to anything. By the way, that's JJ Boop Movies. Shout out to you, buddy. I'll put a link to his channel down in the description box below if you guys want to check him out. He deserves your support. But this really terrible ending just proves his point. I 100% agree with him. It exists and there's some exciting elements to this movie, but with that ending, it just falls so flat and feels like this was all for naught. And that's really what bugs me the most. It really sucks because I was really looking forward to seeing this. Because despite all the delays and the production issues that went into this movie, I knew how much potential it had. I'm gonna give the New Mutants a C-. I'm honestly still shook that I saw this movie and I got a chance to go to a theater to see it. I'm overall glad I saw this movie, I just don't think I need to see it again. In hindsight, I definitely think it's better than Dark Phoenix, but it's very underwhelming for sure. If I may take a page out of the Jeremy Jahns playbook, it wasn't good, it wasn't bad. It just was. But what did you guys think of the New Mutants? Have you guys seen it yet? Did you guys enjoy it more than I did? I'd like to discuss all those thoughts with you guys down below in the comments below. I love discussing movies and all things entertainment with you guys. And if you're enjoying my content and you guys want to continue discussing movies with me, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can so you don't miss any of my future content. And please be sure to leave a thumbs up on this video by the end if you enjoyed it. You guys are awesome. Seriously, thank you all so much again for tuning into the video. Look forward to more fun content coming up very soon on this channel. And with all that being said, back talk, commence.